Does this sound, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Abracadabra. Every therapist and every writer needs a magic wand. We crave magic. Writers especially long for enchantment, an incantation to rise up and seek new paths. What mysterious words will we seek to annihilate the mundane and to create something new? What mysterious words will bring us home? What sacred words will bring us whole? The time for magic is now. And so I prepared some magic for you today. For example, we have to my left what appears to be one thing, a black box with a wand. I'm going to call on someone from the audience. This young lady over here. Can you just take a look under the box? There's nothing under the box. There's nothing over the box. Okay. And I will place this box over here. And is not always a black box. A simple object is not always a simple object. For example, I have something, just happen to have something right here. And, here is a simple scarf. You see the scarf?
Yes.
Yes. What color is it?
Yellow.
Red.
See?
Wait, this is red and green.
Yeah.
But you told me it was yellow and blue. Aha. So we have another little magic trick. Everything is not what it appears to be. Imagery, condensation, and displacement. These are the three components that dreams, poetry, and magic share. Imagery, condensation, and displacement. We may learn best about enchantment from children. Children are astonished by magic and the many wonders of life. Any change or surprise is greeted with astonishment. As Adrian Rich once said, change is the only poem. Any change or surprise is greeted with astonishment. If the scarf is one color, and the next moment another color, it does our heart good. It strikes amazement into our hearts. The initiation song from the Finder's Lodge begins with the yearning for wonder and novelty. It goes like this. Please bring strange things. Please come bringing new things. Let very old things come into your hands. Let what you do not know come into your eyes. Let desert sand harden your feet. Let the arch of your feet be the mountains. Let the paths of your fingertips be your maps. And the ways you go be the lines on your palms. Let there be deep snow in your breathing, and your out-breath be the shining of ice. May your mouth contain the shapes of strange words. May you smell food, cooking you have not eaten. May the spring of a foreign river be your navel. May your soul be at home where there are no houses. Walk carefully, loved one. Walk mindfully, well-loved one. Walk fearlessly, well-loved one. Return with us, return to us. Be always coming home. Ursula Le Guin. Young children do not lie about their emotions. The natural curiosity and openness to whatever presents itself is the gift of resilience itself. Children have a natural capacity for self-expression, and they're not afraid to express whatever it is they feel. Have you ever seen a child crying as though their heart is totally breaking? And then 1 second later, distracted by something else, they forget and start to giggle at some new wonder. As Rumi put it, this being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. A joy, a depression, and meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Ah, if we were only better hosts to all our visitors, embracing each with equanimity. Perhaps the most endearing characteristic of children is their ability to throw themselves into life without holding back. Their hearts are open and undefended. They are experts in what poet Robert Gluck calls throwing the heart away. And he expresses it perfectly in his poem, Prayer. Dear Lord, show me the way. Take my heart and throw it away. Lord, take my heart and throw it out. Lord, throw my heart way out. In addition to the simple and magical characteristics that children embody, the study of magic itself can help us learn about the enchantment of poetry therapy. Sir George Frazer was a pioneer in early mythology and anthropology and comparative religion, as well as magic. And Frazer said that there are two basic concepts upon which magic is based. First, we have the law of similarity, also known as homeopathic or imitative magic, just like voodoo. A witch doctor may make a voodoo doll in the likeness of a person to work its charms on it, for good or for evil. Similarly, we symbolically substitute words for realities that may not be concrete. And the second principle Frazer spoke of is that things once in contact with each other continue to act on each other at a distance after the physical contact has been severed. And certainly it is true that every encounter with words and with people may continue to affect us long after. A poem that is especially significant can cause reverberations long after it is read. Let's return to the first principle of magic. It is very like the ISO principle that Dr. Jack Leedy recognized from the field of music therapy. ISO means sane, and music therapists notice that if dealing with a depressed patient, Melancholy or sad music seemed to be in alignment with the client's mood and could be therapeutic. In poetry, Dr. Leedy suggested that a negative poem could be used to match the client's feeling, but should be infused with some hope. When importing a poem or doing prescriptive poetry, we are thoughtfully selecting a poem that mirrors the conflict that the client is experiencing. The more accurate we are, the more likely it is that there will be an immediate reaction, and the client will be moved to speak about what is disturbing him or her. So let's look at an example to make this clear. My client, Tim, a 33-year-old man, is living with his mother, who has a debilitating disease, and he feels he must stay with her to take care of her. But he has been doing this for 5 years while putting his own career plans on hold, and he feels trapped. I bring in a poem, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. And Angelou refers to the free bird thinking of another breeze, and in this excerpt she captures this conflict. A caged bird stands on the grave of dreams. His shadow shouts on a nightmare screen. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied. So he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown and longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill. For the caged bird sings of freedom. When Tim hears this vivid imagery about a bird whose feet are clipped, whose feet are tied, because his situation is metaphorically the same, he identifies with the bird, and there's an immediate expression of his own frustration and pain. Now, this particular poem demonstrates coming in with the ISO principle, reflecting the problem, but it also demonstrates coming in with the opposite, the potential solution, when Angelou writes, "The free bird thinks of another breeze, and the trade winds softly through the sighing trees and the fat worms waiting on a dawn-bright lawn, and he names the sky his own." Energetically, note the dynamics at play. This poem uses the ISO principle to foster identification. The psychic field is activated, and the powerful principle of opposites is also at work. The installation of hope and the possibility of freedom is present. Now, the principle of opposite plays no small part. Did you ever have a window stuck and find it impossible to move it in the direction you needed to go? Try the opposite way. Same thing works with a stuck zipper. Can't get it to go the direction, try the other way. As another example, two batteries are always aligned negative to positive, and this creates a current or electrical charge. And by the end of his life, Dr. Jack Leedy considered that use of the ISO principle was just a starting point for us to understand a way to approach healing. And as we said, in accordance with the second principle of magic, the images of the poem may continue to act on the individual long after the words are read. We need to consider that a poem is a unit of mental and spiritual energy sent through time and space. Energetically and biologically, it impacts the brain and physical system of the person who receives it. From a biological viewpoint, we can understand that an image or metaphor is the single most dynamic poetic device at the heart of poetry therapy. When an image affects our thoughts and emotions, neurons fire, neurotransmitters and chemicals flow through the brain. One image begets another image and pulls up other associations, memories, and emotions. So what appears to be almost magical has a biological and chemical base. The brain is energized, thoughts are energized, emotions are set into motion. Metaphor imagery remains the Concorde jet of all poetic device. It moves with rapid speed and phenomenal energy, activating senses, feelings, pulling up deep associations and memories. Adrenals are pouring forth chemicals, neurotransmitters are firing, and the possibility of new learning and insight becomes possible as both sides of the brain are involved. Both the linear brain with concrete images and the imaginal brain with its abstract images and meanings are caught up in a dance where thoughts and feelings whirl together, and the corpus callosum, the bridge between the two hemispheres, is very actively transporting information back and forth. Some scientists believe that when that happens, that is when the aha moment happens. Today, with the functional MRI imaging machines, we can actually see this activity in the brain. But even without magnetic imaging thousands of years ago, the history of words and magic was intuitively understood. The poem Magic Words was translated from the Inuit poet Nalungiak by Edward Fields. In the very earliest time, when both people and animals lived on Earth, a person could become an animal if he wanted to, and an animal could become a human being. Sometimes they were people and sometimes animals, and there were no difference. All spoke the same language. That was the time when words were like magic. The human mind had mysterious powers. A word spoken by chance might have strange consequences. It would suddenly come alive, and what people wanted to happen would happen. All you had to do was say it. Nobody could explain this. That's the way it was. Now, in the 4th millennium BC, we know that shamans wrote their healing chants on papyrus and actually had the patients drink the solution so the words could take place from the inside out. Ancient Egyptians carved the names of their enemies on rocks and dashed them against the mountains, symbolically destroying their enemies. This is once again the law of similarity at work. In ancient Greece, the Oracle of Delphi was the mystical place travelers came to ask their life questions. And whereas they would come and expect a magnificent temple, they were surprised to find a simple sign that said, "Know thyself." And they entered and they spoke with a priestess who answered their questions in a riddle or a metaphor that they themselves were left to interpret. And there are stories of their sensual beauty, these mysterious priestesses who were shrouded in a mist of drugs and mind-altering substances. In ancient Rome, Cyrannus, the physician, was already experimenting with the law of opposites, prescribing comedy for depressives and tragedy for persons who are manic. Apollo is the acknowledged healer and poet, but for hundreds of years that followed, poetry remained unacknowledged till, as we mentioned last night, in the 1800s, Benjamin Rush established the first hospital in Pennsylvania that uses writing, that used writing as a healing modality. Certainly poetry can be used as an ancillary therapy, but it is a disservice to ignore the fact that poetry therapy as a primary force is almost magical in its intensity, its rapidity, and its power. And so I turn to the magical enchantment found in the literature of Abracadabra. Like Open Sesame, this incantation has endured through centuries, but its meanings have been obscured. There are many, many interpretations, but its meanings, I've chosen two that I feel are relevant for us to look at today. First of all, we have the Aramaic or Semitic base of the translation of Abracadabra, which is, I create as I speak. Believed by some to be biblical in nature. God created, God spoke a word, and He created. Certainly, for us, it's, as poetry therapists, it's very important. I create as I speak. We know that as we speak, we learn what it is we know. And then we continue to grow and learn. And sometimes the truths that we learn are the starting points for healing. For example, I recall a patient of mine many years ago. I had asked each person in the group to choose to identify themselves as a tree. It was a day center, a day treatment center. And the young man proceeded to tell the group that his tree was a weeping willow. And he then asked the group if they knew that weeping willows have so many roots that they sometimes strangle themselves to death. He referred to his family and his need for space to breathe. This was my only time working with him, and 2 years later, when I heard of his suicide, I remembered how clear and telling this image was. Sometimes the words emerge unexpectedly. I am reminded of a young woman who was mute, but who was attending groups in a special mental health center. And during one session, when working with the Charles Simic poem, Stones, each participant was given a stone and asked, if your stone could speak, what would it say? This young woman, who was selectively mute for several weeks, spoke for the first time. Her words stunned all in attendance, all who were there. I am the stone, she said. I am broken. I come from something so much larger. But now I'm small, now I'm nothing. Broken. This was a starting place for healing. And now the community became aware of the need of this young woman, and they surrounded her with the nurturing that she needed, and she started to speak more. And now I would like to tell you a second interpretation of Abracadabra, also particularly relevant to poetry therapy. One interpretation is from the Portuguese, Abre, open. The cadabra, the cadaver. Abracadabra. In ancient times, where witch doctors opened the corpses of the dead to read the line that was written in the corpse, or perhaps to change the line, to edit it, the corpse had to be opened. The body of emotional material had to be opened to find the wound, to remove the curse, to change the line, to exorcise the demon. But first, the body would need to be opened. We have to find the festering wound, the pain that is poisoning the whole person. And now, if I may, I will share part of my personal story with you. A poem which was a necessary part of my own healing. It does not express the healing part, but it is the expression of pain. It is the first line found in the corpse that is starting to rot. Without finding the source of the pain, again, the rot of the corpse will make it extinct. This poem originally was done in first person many years ago, and later revised 20 years later, and generalized to all females. But the specifics of the situation was part of my history, my own struggle, when as a 33-year-old, and I'm 63 today, when as a 33-year-old, with having 2 young children, my 38-year-old husband had a stroke. And it is called the drowning. Oh, sweet and silly sisters, we have been betrayed. Or should I say, we betrayed ourselves. My prince, you stood on the banks of the moat. I waited, a girl child bride in ball gown, waist deep in frozen water rising. I was going down. Save me. You did not move. I felt the chill of ice water, swallowed, voice locked, my eyes beseeched. You did not move. I flailed my arms in the water, you stood frozen, I went down. Still one arm emerged, as if your love would fish me out like a net from the deepest waters of darkness. Save me. You did not move. I went down, and my body disappeared. Frothy bubbles surfaced, last labored breaths, till a once upon a time that was no more. Dear sisters, oh Eve, Joan, Guinevere, oppressed sisters around the world, in China, our feet were bound. In Afghanistan, our faces were hidden. In Uganda, our sex was castrated. And in America, we pride ourselves on how free we are, yet still bound by the power of fairy tale. We are locked like Rapunzel under the spell of old witchery, waiting for the prince to rescue us. Milk-fed with dreams of palace and prince, secure in the vanity of our pink femininity and the promised enchantment of love's forevermore. Beguiled by the frog's croaking promise of transformation and the glory of valiant rescue. I pity myself as I do women of all generations. We have undone ourselves. Oh, sweet to believe in gold from straw, princes from frogs, castles from prison walls. When the parachute of love did not open, we fell from the sky. And when the parachute of love did not open, we fell from the sky. So here is the story of my fall. It is not the story of how I got up, but abracadabra, it is an open corpse. It is the story of my despair, my sorrow, my disillusionment, and my sense of betrayal at that point in time. Without identifying the source of the pain, without finding the wound, the rot of the corpse will make it extinct. It is the use of words to create the pain body. And once the pain body is visible and known, it can be worked on, it can be rewritten, and new lines can be written in the body so it can be made whole. And so it is that magic is in the work we do. It is in each baby soul that lives within each of us. And it is in the words we carefully, soulfully select in our work and our personal lives. For our conclusion, I want to invite you, I want you to invite into your being the magic of abracadabra. Please repeat these words after me. I invite magic into my life.
I invite magic into my life.
I will use my words powerfully to create what I want.
I will use my words powerfully to create what I want.
I will invoke magic and wonder
I will invoke magic and wonder
to help others.
to help others.
I will use my own special brand of magic
I will use my own special brand of magic
to make this world a better place
to make this world a better place
than how I found it when I woke up this morning.
than how I found it when I woke up this morning.
I give thanks for being alive today
I give thanks for being alive today
and open my eyes to magic around me,
and open my eyes to magic around me,
in me,
in me,
and in others.
and in others.
I embrace
I
the
embrace
magic in the tool of poetry therapy.
the magic in the tool of poetry therapy.
And so it is,
And so it is,
and blessed be.
and blessed be.
Warmth and your reception.